What do you say, everybody? Welcome to the Cubs baseball channel. We got a lot to talk about today as the Cubs get set tonight to play the Kansas City Royals in a big matchup, and the Cubs are now tied for first. What are the Cubs going to do, though? Got a great guest on with us, and we're going to talk about all that. Trade deadline coming. Should we be concerned about where the Cubs are right now? Or is this just going to be one of those great races in baseball in the season? All that right here on the Cubs baseball channel, brought to you by D Community. That's where we're going to be giving away playoff tickets. That is our spot, our community, our Web3 home right there. So let's get this thing started. All right, what do you say, guys? Niren Desai, friend of the show and one of the best posters out there. It's like the mailbag segment when he comes in, but that's underscoring how good he is at following Cubs baseball. I'm at Broadcaster Mick on the socials, and it is good to see you guys today, and good to see you, Niren. Let's get right into it because I know you're chomping at the bit, and I love it when you start messaging me about stuff because I know you have things that you want to talk about. The Cubs are predicted to be very aggressive at the trade deadline, right? Upgrading starting pitching, third base, and the bench. So let's just kind of start with third base options, right? I threw a show together the other day. I feel like Arenado is a great choice, but we're not making a deal with the Cardinals. Just yes or no. You agree with that?
I agree that that's not going to happen.
That ain't going to happen, right? So then it's Eugenio Suarez, who I love, right? I mean, can you imagine throwing him in the lineup? And then to me, it's like you move Shaw to the bench, and now you got like a better bench than you had before. And the Diamondbacks seem like a pretty good trade partner. Who else do you think's worth talking about in this third base spot, or do you feel like Suarez is the top guy to get in that position?
Well, I definitely think Suarez is the dream acquisition. He pretty much has similar numbers as Seiya, maybe even better now after hitting 4 home runs this weekend. It's just tough, man. Like you already have a good lineup. You have Shaw, you believe in him, right? And he had he's been doing some swing adjustments, per some sleuths over on Twitter looking at his batting stance. And yeah, I mean, I think it's a tough get, but I think there's other options that, might be, I wouldn't say nearly as good, but there might be other options. It just depends on how they prioritize, but it's a tough ask. I mean, you just don't know from the Diamondback perspective what they value. Like, do they value the guys that we're offering, or do they value guys other teams like are, offering? And do they want someone do they want pitching because they have a lot of injuries? We don't have a lot of pitching to trade, right? And they have a really good offense. So, maybe that doesn't make sense. So, I mean, there are other guys. I think Willie Castro's really interesting. I think even Ryan McMahon is interesting because I don't think the acquisition cost would be as high, even though we don't need another left-handed bat. He's really defensively. But, I just think that's the question, the matchup. And I think Jed's very cutthroat on trades. I think he knows what he wants, and I know that he's thinking bigger picture because I think that extension's in the bag.
Yeah. You think he's getting the extension?
Yeah, I think it is. And I also think that, you can't predict October performance. So if you can't predict it, you want as many shots at goal, right? So they're probably thinking about a longer window that, this is the first shot and it's got to be, 4 years or 4 to 5 years kind of thing.
Right.
So I do think that there's a fact. I think it's extension in the bag. I think they're going to tie him up with counsel. I think that if you see his interviews, I mean, talking about his kids, I mean, they've grown up Cub fans. I mean, imagine being the president of a team when your kids are like diehard fans. I mean, that's got to be like, that's got to tug at your decision making.
Right. But if you're saying from his vantage point, he would take the extension. But if you're the Cubs, like if you're the front office, if you're the ownership, right? You're Tom Ricketts and Crane Kenny, being the guy that would have a little bit of say in this. If you're going to give him an extension, why just not give it to him now?
It might be already there, right? They're just waiting to announce it.
which is
You
so I
understand, Jed follows orders, right? Jed is a company guy, right?
right.
He cut payroll. Remember that whole thing with the budget with Bregman, how he had to get like an approval
Yeah.
from them to sign Cody and all this stuff and like selling Cody for nothing. I mean, he's a company guy. So from that perspective, I think that there's a lot of mutual loyalty. And then he wants to keep the band together, right? Like they have a team. And it's not just about him, right? It's about everybody else too.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, look, when you're in his spot, this is it. Like if you fail here, you're not getting another one of these jobs. They're really hard to get. I was surprised, to be honest with you, and I know some of you guys are going to disagree with me, but I thought Jim Hendry would get another job. I loved him. Like just being from my vantage point, in the organization when he was there, I thought he did it as best of a job as he could do with the resources that he had, and he had great people around him, and made a run, and then had to deal with, hey, we're going to sell the team, and then and all this stuff. I thought, well, somebody will give him another chance, and they never did. And part of that was that the business changed where they are a lot more, and especially back then, they were a lot more into the technology part of things, right? And he just kind of had to, well, we don't think he understands the technology part of it, right? But he does. It's just you didn't have the resources to do it, right? Well, they said that. I don't believe in that. See, I think that that you can have both, right? You can understand the business the way that it used to be and that worked back then, and then you can also understand how important the technology is that you have now can be. I think there's a balance, right? I think if you get too far on the technology, then you lose the scouting aspect of it. And then on the other side, if you don't take advantage of the technology, you're missing out on a big chunk of information that helps you make decisions, right? So I kind of feel like Jed's done a nice job in that area. If he got an extension, I mean, that'd be fine. I mean, I'm not here advocating him getting fired. I don't care. I just want to see the Cubs win. And I like the sense of urgency that we've gotten from that front office, right? So I give them a pretty high score on the season. Obviously there's stuff that we're not going to like. And then these trades, what are they going to do at the trade deadline? Kind of what we're into now. When you look at the bench, are you satisfied with the bench right now? Do you feel good about Turner and Bruhan and Birdie? I mean, are these the guys that are going to help you win a World Series?
No, I think our bench is quite awful. I mean, I know Turner's like a player coach on the bench. He's doing a good job, and Birdie and Bruhan are good in terms of like pinch running and playing once in a while. But ideally, you want a bench where a guy can play multiple days in a row, spell guys, keep them sharp, so then he can pinch hit and all that other stuff. Or if you have an injury or someone's a little banged up, they can play for a couple days, and it's not a huge drop off, right? And right now, that's not the case, right? It's a huge drop off when these guys play. And they're just, it's just, and these guys are going to wear down, right? We don't even have a backup shortstop. I think Nico's the backup shortstop right now, I guess. Bruhan could play short too, but like these guys are going to wear down. I mean, the dog days are coming. And this is the MLB season is a game of attrition.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, we don't have someone that you really feel comfortable giving PCA a blow and Swanson a blow and all these other guys, right? Like Seiya is obviously like a backup outfielder, from the DH spot. So that works. But yeah, the bench should be significantly improved. It's not easy, and then like, do you want a guy like Casey sitting, things like that, right? So yeah, hopefully we're going to see a lot of upgrades on the bench in terms of a final roster.
Do you think, well, and I'm looking at some of the third base options, and I'm looking at Hayes from the Pirates that they've, kind of been rumored that maybe they're interested in him. And I'm going, if he's your starting third baseman, if you think that's I don't like that, like I just think but if you put him on the bench, if he's like your bench guy, like it changes my perspective of him.
I think they would include him if you took Keller, right? If you want Keller, you got to take his contract because, the Pirates are always looking to cut payroll. So
right.
So like you take him off our hands if you want Keller. I could see that being a combo deal.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think that like, because I'm sure that somebody's going to pay the Keller contract to get Keller. I've read the comments, and one of the reasons that we got to know each other was, you're great in the comment section. We have a lot of people that watch the channel that are just awesome baseball people. And I'll say this, you guys are a lot smarter than if, someone that's like me, like I'm in the business, right? I've been in this for a long time. Like I get it because I've spent 20 years doing it, right? You guys are smart, man. Like I read that stuff and I'm like, this is the same stuff that a lot of us are talking about that are in the organization, or that cover baseball every day. It's amazing how smart our audience is, but I'm not surprised when I read a lot of the comments and I'm like, man, this really makes a lot of sense. Right. But I guess I just look at this whole like trade deadline thing and I'm like, are we going to trade away our best guys, which I think that Owen Casey, I really have hesitance to move Owen Casey because I'm telling you guys, and I've said it on here over and over again, he's going to be a star player. He's going to be really good and consistent and with a lot of pop. He's going to strike out a lot, but, so does Schwarber, and look at Schwarber. Would you like to have Schwarber back right now? I mean,
sure.
he's got that kind of pop. Or are we going to be kind of creative with some moves like the Dodgers seem to be, still get great players back, but not trade away our superstar guys that are the next guys? I don't know. I got a feeling we're going to trade away. We're going to trade all these guys away because it's either this or nothing type of season, and that's been the worry to me. And picking up like a Keller and just paying him, to me, if that's a big part of the deal, to me seems like a lot better option than trading away Owen Casey and then having him beat you up. Like watching Pete Crow Armstrong like just destroy the Mets was awesome. Then he goes to LA and destroys that. You know what I mean? Like, and Mets fans are like our fans. Like they were complaining when that deal was made. Like we just did what? And look at how it turned out.
It's so hard, balancing for these guys, the 1 year versus the long term. I think Keller's an interesting option because I think there's more in him, right? If the Cubs, like if you look at the Cubs pitching infrastructure, they've just gotten more out of good players and made them great, or improved them. So I think there's more in him. I mean, who knows, right? Like they're all the nerds are looking at his pitch grips and his horizontal movement and all that stuff, and they're thinking maybe there's more in him, and he's locked up. He's pitched 175 innings multiple years in a row. Like to me, that's the biggest thing, that like who's going to last past August 15th, because that's very unpredictable right now. And then even if you go to like some of the people that we want, even Boyd, I mean, like is Boyd going to last? Like he's never pitched this many innings, so who knows, right? It's not always the arm. It's it's everything else. It's the knee, the back, all the wear and tear, and then the length of the season, right? So the 7th month, the arm just goes dead. So who knows, right? So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely interested in Keller, but this is where the front office has to shine. They have to make the right decision. I looked at some trades right before we got on the podcast. I looked at these trades. Burns was traded for Ortiz and DL Hall. Ortiz is a good defensive player, right, but he's not like, he's not like a first-rate, shortstop yet. And DL Hall's like in the bullpen, right? And Burns is like, what nobody we're trying to trade for is Burns, right? So, right. And then Dylan Cease was traded for a few guys, and one of them had Tommy John. I mean, he had a good year with the Yanks, but the Yanks got him in the Soto. It was like a whole thing with the Soto trade, and then flipped over to the White Sox for Cease. So, I mean, these aren't great trades. I mean, like if you look at the most recent market, these aren't great trades. So we'll see. It just depends on how desperate people are and what they're willing to give up.
Right. The deal, what you don't want is to be the Padres and give up all those players for Soto. And look at the players that the Nationals got back in that deal. That's going to turn out to be. I'm not an AJ Preller guy. I just think that he's just reckless. And that deal to me is the exact example of how you ruin an organization. You give all those guys up, and now all of a sudden, and I know the Nationals aren't good yet, but they have a foundation off of that trade that you got one guy for who you flipped him to the Yankees, but it doesn't feel like you got that much back from the Yankees, right? Like, like you're saying, like you're not feeling that good about that deal. And you're
but
looking at
AJ
the players
Preller's
who
nuts,
gave
right?
up,
Like
right?
he's a wheeler and dealer. Remember he did
Yeah.
all those trades and it bombed out. He like got James Shields and all those guys that, like in 2015 or 16. And then he traded Shields for Tatis, right? So that worked out in his advantage, right? So like, yeah, he did all these crazy deals. He's just he's a wheeler and dealer. If you go back to like the 2019 Padres top 30 prospect list, I mean, he traded everybody. Like he kept like two guys. He kept like two guys. Like he traded everybody. So that's just, that's just a different way of going about it, right?
Well, it is. I mean, look, they win the World Series this year. He's a genius, right? They don't, and then all of a sudden they start doing this, and it feels like that's going to happen, right? Because they're gonna lose. They're not
going
to
be a financial cash flow issue there too.
Right. They were trying to trade Cease this year, and one of the other starters, because they were like, you could tell it was a payroll thing, and it's like
$50 million from MLB.
Yeah, like think about this. I mean, like that's not good business. All right, well, let's talk pitching options. So I mean, we've gotten into this on the channel a lot. Like, what do you feel like pitching wise that could be pulled off? I say if I'm the Cubs, I'm focusing in on Arizona. I mean that they're gonna move Suarez, right, the third baseman. But I love either Merrill Kelly or Zach Gallen. I mean, I think those are the two guys. Like Keller to me seems like he's like a third or fourth starter on the Cubs right now. And then you're going, hey, how's he going to hold up, right? And I don't know that. He seems like he's been pretty ironclad, right? When I'm looking at like the Cubs matching up against the Dodgers or the Padres or the Phillies or the Mets or whatever in a playoff series, I think like you got Shota, like you mentioned, Boyd, which we're wondering if he's going to last. He's been amazing. It'd be nice just to get somebody else just to let Boyd skip a start, slow down some innings, which they love doing that, by the way, just to have him ready for the postseason. Those two guys to me are the two. One of those two would be great because they've got World Series experience. They've had a playoff run that got them there. And I could put those guys right next to Shota at the top of the rotation, either one of them.
Yeah, I'm trying to channel Jed a little bit. I mean, he's been doing some public media appearances and podcasts. I really think that he's going to try and balance it, like maybe one proven guy and one guy that maybe is having a bad year or, has a track record of being good and not having the greatest year. I think that's kind of the way he's going to mix and match. But, like what I think is you're just not going to see these starters pitch that deep in October. So I think it's going to be, the whole thing with outgetters, right? So I think that you're going to see maybe a Lugo and a Gallen where like Gallen's kind of been off, but the Cubs think that they can fix him by September 1st. So like maybe three or four tune-ups, and then he's okay for the rest of the season. Like they probably believe in that, right? And they might try that with multiple guys, right? And then let's just, just thinking through, like, let's say Horton's in the bullpen, Ben Brown's in the bullpen. Maybe they pick up another couple bridge guys. I mean, I think you're going to see kind of 4 innings, bridge guy for 2, and then the 1 inning guys, right?
Right.
And then, even like Palencia, like he's never pitched 7 months either, right? So, how long? How are they going to trust these guys in the 8th and 9th inning? And like a guy like Presley, like would he even make the playoff roster, right? Because he's fine when you're playing whoever, but I don't know in October that some of these guys are even going to make the roster. So I think that's going to be very different. So yeah, I think that you might see one proven guy and then maybe 1 or 2 bridge, like kind of we can fix them by September guys.
Well, if you're going to go and give up your top prospects and you're going to make these big packages to the Diamondbacks, I just hope that you get back somebody that's going to be able to be in the top of the rotation. But, I see what you're saying too. Like so much of the playoffs now is bullpen. Are you worried that bullpen? It's like had a couple slip ups here lately.
I think they're overused. I mean, the bullpen is overworked. I mean, I just looked up stats on the Cubs. I mean, Brad Keller's pitched 42 games. So like we have another 60 games to go. So, is he going to pitch 70 games? I mean, is his
Right.
arm going to last? I think that's the big concern. A guy like Sir Anthony Dominguez, or is that his name? Is that his last name? Yeah, I think so. Sir Anthony in Baltimore, he's making like $9 million. So like I could see them dumping him.
Yeah.
But he's proven he's pitched like 70 games a year for like 3 years in a row. A guy like him, Iglesias in Atlanta. I mean, he gave up a grand slam this weekend, but to Grisham. But those guys have proven that they can pitch 7-month seasons, right? So I wonder if you're going to see guys like those types of moves to then push down Palencia, push down some of these guys into the bullpen.
Right. Or go out and sign, like, go out and make a trade for a closer to work with.
Yeah.
I don't know. You can't take Palencia. Palencia's got to be one of your closers. I mean, all he's done is
they're all closers, right? To me, they're all closers. They're just not closing every night, right? You can't close every night.
He's just been a dog out there. I love watching this transformation. I've been talking on this, I've been saying for years he could be the closer, but he never had the mentality for it. They put him in there and he blew that game against the Marlins. And I'm like, he's just soft. And then since then, man, he is just dug in. And it's like, now it's like, hey, I'm coming at you. You better be ready. And he's been locking them down. I mean, it's been amazing to see. And I got to give the Cubs mentally, they've done a great job of getting him into that position where he can go and be a dominant guy. Now, I would love to have somebody else to work with him, but to me, he's not an issue at all. I think he's one of the big assets of this team.
Yeah, he's been amazing. And I don't question him at all right now in terms of stuff. I question just experience and then longevity of the season, right? It's unproven. So who knows, right? I can't predict it. No one can predict anybody, right? Like how many of these October stars come out of nowhere, they just hit home runs or, shit everyone, like Madison Bumgarner that year. I mean, it was just like ridiculous.
Yeah. I was hoping that we would sweep the Red Sox just because it pushes them further down where they will trade us Aroldis Chapman. Worked before, and I don't, when he was a free agent, we talked about that on the channel. Why not sign him? Remember? I mean, you could have just gone out and just given him a deal and they just it was like they, and some of you guys.
I don't know if Chicago can forgive him for Rajay Davis.
Well, I mean, I felt like it was more like his off the field stuff that people were like writing about. Yeah. But now, I mean, you're in this spot and it's like, you could use, think about him and Palencia coming at you. That's a pretty good punch in the back end of your bullpen. And I don't think you're going to have to give up a lot to get him, if the Red Sox are willing to trade. Now they won 10 straight. And then the other thing, kind of talking about this, and I want to transition to the Brewers here in a second, but it's like I look at the Red Sox, like now they're back in the mix, but they weren't. And then all of a sudden you start hearing Alex Bregman trade talk, and I'm like, hey, look, I'll take Alex Bregman, we were going to try to sign him anyway, and what was it? It came down to years, right? Like they gave him 3, we wouldn't give him 2. And now you're going to have to give him, you could give him 2.5, but he to me kind of has that same thing that I talked about with the 2 pitchers from Arizona, is that World Series experience. He's won them.
It depends. It depends on the ask, right? Like in terms of, is he going to opt out? He probably will opt out of his deal. So it's just a rental, but there's always that risk that if he got hurt or something like that, he would opt in. And the Ricketts don't do deferrals and all that stuff, right? So, and he's got a big nut. It's like $40 million. I mean, it's deferred, but still, it's a lot. We'll see. I mean, I just don't know if that's, if they want to re-sign Tucker and then, sign another starting pitcher next year, does that work for them? So it just depends on the ask, right? If it's just like, hey, you want, Jordan Wicks or whatever, I mean, probably do it and take the gamble. But if they want, they want Owen Casey or they want, Kate Horton, Ben Brown, I mean, probably not.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just depends on the ask. I mean, I wouldn't even trade some of these, like a Jefferson Rojas for a rental. So it just depends it depends what they want.
Yeah. The thing that you got to remember, and this is the last thing I want to say about the trades, is that what the strategy's been, and I know this from talking to people like Jed, is you trade guys that are further down the system so that it gives you some time to, at least have the perception that you won the trade, right? The thing that they're going to have to encounter with the Owen Casey deal is Owen Casey's going to go straight to the big leagues, whatever team takes him, and they're going to put him in right field, and he's going to be there for a long time, and he's going to have success. Now, I don't know how long it's going to take to have that success, but I'm telling you guys right now, he's going to have success. He's got all the ingredients to be a very, very good to star player. And the front office is going to have to deal with that. So for that deal, because he's in AAA and he's sitting there waiting, they better win that trade. They can't go out there and get like just, some rental that peters out, or people are going to be, Cubs fans are going to be like Mets fans in the Pete Crow Armstrong trade. They're going to want to burn the front office at the stake, and I listened to the guy that made the trade for Pete Crow Armstrong. He's like, well, we came from Boston and, we didn't think he could hit. Like, I don't know how you couldn't think the guy could hit, but me, because I've talked about it on here before. Casey's another one of these guys. The front office knows he's going to be a good player. They know it, but he's their biggest chip. If they trade him, just know they realize that they're asking for it, because people aren't going to be too happy about that when he's cracking a bunch of.
If we make it to 3 NLCSs in a row and get to a World Series twice,
people won't care.
I'd be like, Gleyber Torres too, right?
The joy of Wrigleyville will oversee his 20 home runs.
But if we get swept in the first round, then he's like killing it.
That's the flaw, I think, a little bit of the new playoff system. I mean,
right.
I have my own ideas on how to fix it, but they're just kind of like a brainstorm kind of think tank kind of idea. But
right. Let me get to this. Because people are gonna tell us we're too long. Brewers tied the Cubs for first place. The Brewers are right now playing baseball at an incredible clip. It's not like the Cubs have played bad. The Cubs are 19 over 500, but the Brewers are winning every single day. And to be honest with you, like I know, look, I'm not that concerned. I just think they're hot, right? Iron sharpens iron. You look at that division, that is a tough division. And I'm glad to see our friends in St. Louis are 8.5 games back. Sorry, guys. But now maybe we need to put our focus on these Brewers, because they're surging right now. These are all like guys that they've developed in their farm system. They're doing it the old St. Louis Cardinal way, right? Like, we're not going to spend a lot. They're getting rid of a lot of their star players, but they're still able to go out and develop. And then I got to give them credit. I hate to say it, but I enjoyed watching them whoop the Dodgers down in LA. Like, I feel like the Dodgers are like trying to be that team that just buys everybody. And, and it's like, I hear them wanting to buy Tucker, but now I'm like, okay, it might be time to start paying a little bit of attention to these Brewers, because they deserve it. Like, this is a good team, but I still feel like, and I'm not that worried about them. Like, you get hot, you get cold. I think that you do this, they're going to eventually do this. We've been consistently here, right? Or are you worried? I mean, should we all panic?
I mean, I'm worried in that they're really good at executing their game plan, and they know how to play. They know how to get the most out of their guys. They know how to manage bullpens. They know how to develop pitching that no one's ever heard of. Or some, like that guy, Chad Patrick. I think it's like one of those. I'm like, is the guy an accountant? Like, what's going on over here? So where'd they get this guy? H&R Block? I mean, they know how to play. But for me, the Cubs have the resources, the talent to beat them no matter what. If it takes 98 wins, it takes 98 wins. If it takes 95 wins, it takes 95 wins. The Cubs should beat the Brewers no matter how good they are. The Cubs have no excuses. They have the resources, the talent, the infrastructure, the ballpark, the fans, whatever.
Well, they got the players too. They got a better team. Cubs are a better team to me than the Brewers, plain and simple.
They're a better team, but the Brewers find a way to win. They know how to. They're like the Rays, from that perspective. They get the most out of their guys, right? So whatever their secret sauce is, it wasn't just Craig Counsell; it was their organization. So you got to give them credit, and whatever they're good at, we just have to be better. Like, that's it.
Right.
There's no excuse for Jed. How do they do it? It's like, just find a way to be better than them. I don't care.
Hey, how funny is this? We got we got a big week of baseball coming up, right? We got Kansas City, get through these games, then the White Sox, then this showdown with the Brewers. And the Brewers are like marketing it. I saw the picture. It was like, like this big showdown. And it is. Look, let's go.
I might go. I might go next week to Milwaukee to some of those games.
Go take it over with us.
Yeah, I might go down there on Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, do a doubleheader, stay some more up there.
Go in there and take the dome back from them, which was just awesome. They hate the Cubs so bad. And it's because when the Cubs are in town, it's a Cubs city.
Yeah, I mean, it's a small market, right? So whatever. Look how good they are. I respect them. But yeah, it's fun taking over their ballpark.
All right. I've gotten some comments about this, and I wanted to talk about this on here. The marquee broadcast that JD was off, and then they had Elise Miniker doing the color, and you guys are like messaging me about it, and it's like I think it comes down to this without being critical of her. I just think the Cubs need more Cubs on the marquee broadcast. Like, and you start to look at it, you're like, man, there's been 100 and how many years of Cubs baseball? You're telling me that there's no Cubs that you can go get to bring in and talk about Cubs baseball on a Cubs broadcast? Like, I mean, I grew up watching Harry Carey and Steve Stone. It's why I'm a Cubs fan. It's why I love Cubs baseball. You too. Like, Harry was awesome and legendary, funny. I don't know that they could have Harry on here because Harry was honest. And it wasn't like you feel like state-run radio, it wasn't state-run TV. Like, he could say whatever he wanted to say. And he loved some players like our friend Jody Davis. And then Jody tells me stories about when one guy tried to attack Harry in the clubhouse because he was so hard on this reliever. I don't even want to say who it was and get him on here and talk about it. But the bottom line is this. Where's the Joe Maddens? Where's the Joe Girardis? I loved it when he would come on and kind of be part of the broadcast. Like, when I was a kid, we got the Cubs and we got Baltimore. They had a guy named Chuck Thompson and they had a guy named Brooks Robinson. And the Brooks Robinson guy was amazing. He would tell stories about what it was like when the Orioles won the World Series in '66 and, what it was like in the 70s and all that stuff. Right. And they were two really amazing broadcasts. And it always felt like an Orioles broadcast and the Cubs always felt like a Cubs broadcast. I feel like the thing to me is Marquee feels like it's an extension of MLB Network, which I'm not complaining about, but it just doesn't have that local feel. And to me, they've got to go out and find some Cubs. I don't know, like somebody can come on there and talk and tell us what it was like. How about Ben Zobrist? I mean, or maybe it doesn't even have to be a star player. Maybe it's a star like behind the scene, like a backup guy that has great stories. But it just, I get it, and I get why some of you guys feel the way you do, and some of you guys like it, like Elise. She's a softball player in college, and I'm not saying she doesn't know the game, but I think you guys are saying that you want someone like Bobby Dernier, right? That's like you like the Harry Carey, Steve Stone thing, like where you just feel like, hey, I'm listening to these guys. Not only are they talking about what's going on now, but they pull in that perspective of what it's like to face Nolan Ryan or what it's like to face Steven Strasburg or what it was like to beat the Cleveland Indians in the World Series or, what 84 was like. Like when Rick Sutcliffe's in. He's awesome, right? And I think you guys want more of that. Is that kind of did I say it the right way?
Yeah, I think that, I think the broadcast tries to be like, tries to play more entertainment than baseball. And I think that's some of the flaws. I think I'm more concerned about Marquee being a profit source for the organization to spend more. So what I hear is that, obviously there's revenue from the Cubs, but, running a network is very expensive, right?
Yeah.
So, in terms of profits, feeding into the Cubs, I mean, I hear that's not happening. So I would love for some other arrangement where the Cubs are getting a big chunk of revenue and somebody else can, run a network, which is not easy, right? And streaming services are not easy to run unless you're Netflix. So, yeah, I mean, that's like one issue. I mean, when JD is off, why don't they bring in like 4 ex players and just rotate them every 2 innings?
The Braves. Remember we played the Braves?
The Braves, that alumni broadcast was amazing. Yeah. That was hilarious.
We got we decided to do like the all women's show, and these guys are doing like the all Braves show. And I'm not saying, look, I get it. Like, you want to, feel good about all that stuff. I just want to make money, like you're saying, and it's like the more money that they make, the more money that they can spend on keeping Tucker and going out and getting more pitchers and players like the Dodgers, right? And we have a fan base that is just as passionate as the Dodgers are. But their TV network came along at a better time. Things have changed. I'll say this, though, and I agree with you. I thought that broadcast was awesome. Like listening to like Chipper Jones in there, Maltzy crap and all that. That was awesome. And I feel like that's what the Cubs need to be looking at, not MLB Network. They need to be looking at that kind of stuff, giving the fans more where it's like people are talking about it, because they enjoyed it, because it's a baseball thing. And I enjoyed that too. I remember watching that game going, man, this, why aren't we doing this right here? Can you imagine R4? I mean, can you have Rhino up there with Bobby Dernier and Jody Davis and Sarge, and just have those guys like riffing on the 84 team, and, or throw Sutcliffe in there. I mean, he's always like got stories and I've been around, when some of those guys from 84 get together and just like start, kind of getting into each other. It's really funny. They all have a great sense of humor. I think Sutcliffe's one of the best in the business. I've been around Maddox a lot. Maddox is a great talker. I don't know what it would cost to pay him to bring him in, but, and I don't know if he's ever done color, but look, you're a network. Take your resources and teach him how to do it and bring him in. He's got some of the best stories I've ever heard. I've spent a lot of time around Greg Maddox.
Even Sweet Lou for a game would be fun again.
Yeah, right, man. Like, look, I've been my favorite team was the 87 team, other than, like the World Series team. I love the 87 team. Hawks are awesome. What if you had the Hall of Famers up there? Billy Williams is still around, and he's someone that's fun to talk to. Like they have to be. They've got to get baseball people in position to help make some of these decisions, because we're sitting on what could be a big asset, and it just kind of sometimes feels like like you guys are writing. I'm agreeing with you. Like, we're missing some opportunities, because you make the programming good, people are going to find it. And it's tough to find it sometimes, on a regular television, but with apps and everything else now, you're getting there. And then once you get the eyes watching, then all of a sudden you can make the money off of that, right?
Yeah, and also people are like looking at their other phones and stuff like that during games. They're not listening. They're looking up when action hits. So yeah, it's a very different way people consume content, very differently now. So I would definitely want more entertaining broadcast. Sometimes they don't talk about the game. They're like kind of joking around about some topic. And the game's kind of like behind the scenes. I don't know. Sometimes, I'm a hardcore fan. I guess maybe the mass audience is different. So I can't say that I'm a producer. So.
No, but you bring up a point. Look, I've been in this business for a long time too. You're trying to appeal to everyone, right? You got to appeal to the guys like us that are like hardcore fans, baseball scouts, grandmother driving the kids, the grandkids are going with the grandkids to a game. The kids, like, they got to be able to like enjoy it and take it in. And I've always thought of it like Harry, like if you watched a Harry Carey broadcast, it's like being at a bar and everybody's welcome. It doesn't matter where you came from or who you are. Like, here, I got this drink, we're talking about the Cubs. Here comes the 1-1. Did you know that this guy, like, where it's a really fun, open, you're never going to make everybody happy. But if your focus is building from the Cub fan out, there's enough of us. Just watch when we're in Milwaukee, when the takeover happens, and they're playing their best baseball. They've won 100 games in a row. And we're coming in there, and guess who's going to take over their stadium? If you make it for that person and build out from there, the money will come. I wish I could buy the Marquee Sports Network. I wish they would let me buy it, because I feel like it's a gold mine just sitting there waiting,
Cub Nation, just monetize.
Hey, they need to get in the comment section and just read what the people want. And if you give the people what they want, you'll find out that it's not that hard. All right, look, always great talking to you, Niren. We blow through. I say, let's do 20. We doubled it up. Some of you guys are going to be like, man, this was a long one. But when he's here, this is a podcast style podcast. Normally I just do, and maybe I'll do a different show today that's just kind of like information. But I like having a little variety on the channel, and I appreciate you, Niren, and all of you guys that watch every day and are part of what we do, because this is what I started it for these kind of topics, these discussions. I'm really excited about the community and what we got going on there, for them to kind of be part of what we're doing and help us build kind of a Web3 presence there. The world's changing, and the last thing I want to say, kind of going back to Marquee, kind of leading into what we're doing with the community, but the Cubs got to have on those broadcasts, those viral moments that Marquee takes and cuts them into like 3-minute strips and puts them out. That's how you build, right? Like when, you get up there and Sutcliffe and Maddox are on, like you were talking about, at the same time, and they're cutting up with each other, and it's funny, and you send it out. Braves did that. The media business has changed a lot. And the other thing too is, like, if you run a TV network like it's a TV network from 15 years ago, it's expensive. But guess what? You don't have to. You can downsize on a lot of this stuff because it's just different now. I mean, like the camera on my laptop is better than the camera that we had doing TV 20 years ago.
Right.
Which is crazy, right? That's a whole nother topic. But anyway, go Cubs. I'll be back at it. Niren will be back at it again. You and I will get back together soon, and appreciate it. Like, subscribe, thumbs up, get in the comment section, argue with me if you want to. I love it when you guys do that. But most importantly, thank you for being here, and go Cubs.